Luke 24. Women visit the garden tomb. Now, on the first day of the week, at daybreak, the women came to the tomb, carrying the spices they had prepared. They found the stone had been rolled away from the tomb, but when they entered, they did not find the body of the Lord Yeshua. And while they were perplexed about this, suddenly 2 men in dazzling clothes stood beside them. The women were terrified and bowed their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, "Why do you search for the living among the dead? He is not here, but he is risen. Remember what he told you when he was still in the Galilee, saying that the Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be executed, and on the 3rd day rise up." And they were reminded of his words. And when they returned from the tomb, they told all these things to the 11 and to everyone else. Now it was Miriam from Magdala, Joanna, the Miriam of Jacob and others together with them who were telling these things to the emissaries. But these words appeared to them as nonsense, and they would not believe them. But Peter got up and ran to the tomb. Leaning in, he sees only the linen cloths. And he went away to his home, marveling at what had happened. Eyes open in Emmaus. Now behold, 2 of them on that very day were traveling to a village named Emmaus, a distance of about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were speaking with one another about all the things that had been happening. While they were talking and discussing, Yeshua himself approached and began traveling with them. But their eyes were kept from recognizing him. Then he said to them, "What are these things you are discussing with one another as you are walking along?" They stood still, looking gloomy. Then the one named Cleopas answered and said to him, "Are you the only one visiting Jerusalem who doesn't know the things that happen there in these days?" Yeshua said to them, "What kind of things?" And they said to him, "The things about Yeshua from Nazareth, who was a prophet, powerful in deed and word before God and all the people. How the ruling Kohanim and our leaders handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they executed him. But we were hoping that he was the one about to redeem Israel. Besides all this, today is the 3rd day since these things happened. But also some women among us amazed us. Early in the morning they were at the tomb. When they didn't find his body, they came saying that they had also seen a vision of angels who said, 'He is alive.' Some of those with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women said, but they did not see him." Yeshua said to them, "O foolish ones, so slow of heart to put your trust in all that the prophets spoke. Was it not necessary for Messiah to suffer these things and to enter into his glory?" Then beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them the things written about himself in all the scriptures. They approached the village where they were going, and he acted as though he were going farther on. But they urged him, saying, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening and the day is already gone." So he went in to stay with them. And it happened that when he was reclining at the table with them, he took the matzah, offered a bracha, and breaking it, gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he disappeared from them. Good news for the disciples in Jerusalem. They said to one another, "Didn't our heart burn within us while he was speaking with us on the road, while he was explaining the scriptures to us?" And they got up that very hour and returned to Jerusalem. They found the 11 and others with them gathered together and saying, "The Lord is risen indeed. He has appeared to Simon." Then they began telling about the events on the road and how he became recognized by them in the breaking of the matzah. While they were speaking of these things, Yeshua himself stood in the midst of them and said, "Shalom aleichem." But they were startled and terrified, thinking they were seeing a ghost. Then he said to them, "Why are you so shaken? And why do doubts arise in your heart? Look at my hands and my feet. It is I myself. Touch me and see. For a spirit doesn't have flesh and bones as you see I have." And when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. But while they were still in disbelief due to joy and wonder, he said to them, "Do you have anything to eat here?" They gave him a piece of broiled fish, and he took it and ate it in their presence. Then he said to them, "These are my words which I spoke to you while I was still with you. Everything written concerning me in the Torah of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms must be fulfilled." Then he opened their minds to understand the Scriptures, and he said to them, "So it is written, that the Messiah is to suffer and to rise from the dead on the third day, and that repentance for the removal of sins is to be proclaimed in his name to all nations, beginning from Jerusalem. You are witnesses of these things. And behold, I am sending the promise of my Father upon you, but you are to stay in the city until you are clothed with power from on high." Yeshua ascends into heaven. Then Yeshua led them out as far as Bethany, and he lifted up his hands and blessed them. And while blessing them, he departed from them and was taken up into heaven. After worshiping him, they returned to Jerusalem with great joy, and they were continually in the temple praising God.